Welcome to What Do You Know podcast. This podcast was created to inspire, to open up those sparks and invite us to what do we each know. Now, my guests come from all around the globe, have experienced, have created, and brought different things into this beautiful world. But what if their journey is just there to be an inspiration for what it is that each of us actually knows? Some of our topics will be about the planet, businesses, money, creation of wealth, relationships, and so much more. And we invite you to listen to this episode of What Do You Know? Hello, everyone, and welcome to What Do You Know podcast. Today, I know my voice might be a little bit sounding like I'm in a garage. I'm not. I'm in a beautiful place in Florida. And my friend, welcome, Chiara Dolza.
Hi, Nale. Thank you for the welcome. Yay.
I love the Italian language. And we are having this beautiful conversation about leadership and kids, teachers, parents, and all these other things that we're going to talk about a little bit more here. And we were like, let's jump on the podcast. Let's actually have it that we're sharing this conversation with such a greater, broader audience. And Chiara, do you want to tell them a little bit about you?
I'd love to. So let's see if I can describe myself in a succinct way. So I am an Italian certified facilitator of access consciousness. I use this tool in the rest of my project with it, which is journalism regarding parenting. You'll see there is a team here, and I'm a teacher. And I am a mom of three. And I'm recently working with the government as well, sharing tools to empower everything that is into the educational system. So teacher, kids, and kind of rather than having just an academic conversation, also having an empowering and like a bit of a look at the future in a way. So you see, team is family, kids, learning. I love it. I'm fascinated. I know that family can be a very heavy topic. I don't know why. I'm Italian, so for like culturally for us, it's a very serious matter. But I am amazed. I really find it way more a conversation about leadership, and that's going to be a shameless plug about what do you know? What do you know? What do you know? And how are you? So how do you get so lucky that there is a podcast that gives voice to that? I am amazed. Thank you, Lale. It's just like a chef's kiss podcast and title. It just makes me happy by hearing it. So yeah, so I think that's it. I don't know. Yeah, I think that's it. That's all.
Well, that's just a little bit of a taste of Chiara, because Chiara is so many different things. She knows how many languages? 5, 7, 8,
Five.
There's so many things about you. I love the way you not just look at parenting different, but what you're being in your life, what you're being for your kids. I had the great pleasure of being with you and your family, I think a year and a half or maybe 2 years ago. And it's not just the talk. It's not just here, I'm applying these tools or I'm teaching you something. It's really who you are. You function that way every single day, asking questions. You taught me so much about zero waste that I just love and got so intrigued about. I love the earth, that, and finding ways to just stop talking and to take action. And I want to have this conversation because the conversation you and I were having is a business situation that I'm involved in. And the way that you were like, Lale, do you see you're actually being very much what did you call it? Horsemanship.
It was horsemanship. What a leader you are. But the word that came up, and it's true, it's fascinating. And I'm sorry, I'm kind of interrupting.
Oh,
But lately I've been, when you hear terms in the conversation, but they don't really stand out. And then all of a sudden they're really like they're it's a personal engagement that some words have with you. And for me lately, horsemanship has been a very tickling conversation because it's a bit like it means something that is leadership, but also evokes the spontaneous, innate knowing that nature has, where there is something you add and some things that you let kind of fall off because like trees, they let leaves fall down because it wouldn't be sustainable with the light and the temperature condition to keep them up for the winter in a way, which is very elegant. And I'm like very fascinated by this. I'm intrigued by this
yeah.
thing.
And, we started to talk about you and this young man. Do you want to talk a little bit about this um,
Yeah.
6-year-old adult that you were dealing with?
Yes, I'd love to. So I'm a teacher, and this year the referral person for all students between 3 and 6. And I had at the beginning of school, I had this very um, intense lesson with one group, and specifically with one kid. There was so much like anger and repression in his universe, and it was interesting because I came home right after lesson and all I wanted to do was like hide myself in a closet and cry. I felt like I need a healthy cry for like 45 minutes of crying, and then I'm gonna have a shower and be myself, and I was looking at how much kind of saving, it's tricky to be aware of whether we're trying to save someone or and I would say acknowledging the benevolence and the generosity and the empowering that goes in dealing with any people. It's not just teaching, is any interaction that we have. And I feel like it's a fine line that we really need to be aware of, being ourselves, but not losing ourselves in anyone's insanity or trying to kind of impose to someone what we know is possible with them, which I think that no parent ever did that for everyone. I don't know,
I don't know what you're talking about. I've never done that.
exactly.
I've never told my kids what to do, even though I knew they weren't going to do it.
Well, we're lucky it's only you, Lale. Thank you for taking on this. But I was also acknowledging what a gift this kid Lorenzo is being to me personally, as he's really inviting me to, I would say, respect myself enough, but also to, yeah, yeah, to respect myself enough to contribute to him, and then also allow him to have his choices and do not obsess about whether he's happy or not, whether he has a voice in his family or not for the rest of the week. I just have 1 hour of, teaching him. And I mean, it's also interesting. I was wondering today, I was talking with a friend and her sister was hospitalized and stuff. And we were talking about how, if it's at all possible to kind of stop caring, to just unplug your whatever it is, because it's not just your brain, it's energetically all of you, from someone that is having a challenging moment and just have a shower, hike, I don't know, cook a meal, and then go back into caring. And we were looking at what a source we are, that we don't that we rarely acknowledge, and pat ourselves on the shoulder a bit for being like, wow, I'm awesome, I'm a source, and I don't give myself credit for that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
One of the things that I loved about this particular story about the 6-year-old is that if the 6-year-old was a 35-year-old woman, you would have treated that 35-year-old woman very differently. You would have provided tools, you would have given information, but you would have known when it's just their choice and you cannot give more. Like you had to know this is at that cross line. They have to be the ones to decide where they're going to go. Are they going right? Are they going left, in front, back? But that's their choice. But when it comes to, you know, a beautiful being that has a small body, you know, we can call them kids. It's so different how much we take away that awareness of how we would handle it if it was anybody else, and go into that kindness, caring, that gratitude we have for them and our vision of a better world, you know, instead of, hey, no matter how old they are, they've chosen a path. All you can be is an inspiration and invitation for a different possibility of a different path, but you can't force them to go there.
No.
And, you know, I know you cried, because that was also one of the ways your body was showing you what was really going on, you know?
Yeah. And it's amazing how you release also, like acknowledging that there is so much energy and intensity, and you get in touch with bodies all day long, all bodies. And sometimes I know that I come home and I put on my, you know, my gym shoes and I just go for the longest hike because they really require, there's so much movement, there's so much things like all rolled up into ones that I just require to, I don't know, let out by walking in nature, maybe, you know. But it's also interesting, you know, we were also having this conversation. I acknowledge that in the time of the lesson, which is 1 hour a week, he invited me to claim on and acknowledge the adult of consciousness that I am. So I am not going to be like overpowering, but I know where we're going, and you're all invited to chime in and contribute, and you know, all have your voice, and we're going in one direction. So I'm also not allowing anyone, small or big, to treat me with disrespect. And it's funny because it's a conversation that I have with my kids all the time. My youngest has been a bit bullied at school, and he was a bit of a people pleaser last year, I would say. And so the conversation we were having, you know, driving to school quite often was like, we are the one that teach other people how to treat them, and we need to step up to that and really be that daily. So if something is not working, we really need you know, to trace the line in the sand and be like, no, that is unacceptable, no matter how old you are. And it was funny because he felt like, but I'm just a kid. And I was like, that's exactly when you need to start. And I know that this reality, you know, this system will treat you as arrogant or unpolite, which has nothing to do, by the way, like etiquette has nothing to do with having your voice in the word. So everything tells you to just be quiet, like a good kid is never to be heard or something like that. But that doesn't necessarily need to be truth, and you don't need to enforce that in the word. And you can have your voice and you can say it politely, but you don't need to take abuse for you know, it's not like for an answer, but you don't need to take in abuse so that people will be fine and, I don't know, feel like they can control you, or etc etc.
You know, you worded it so beautifully. It's people pleasing. Like that's what we learn. Please our parents first, right? So that becomes the foundation. Our parents, our grandparents, everyone, it becomes part of us without knowing that is not you. That's something you learned along the way. Because if you notice, kids always know their own gut instinct. You know, they literally, that's their first thing. It's their innate gut instinct, which is really our awareness. And they know, hey, not this way, go the other direction. But they can't tell you why they went the other direction. They just know I had to go the other direction. But we start to teach them, no, you have to think about it. You have to make the right answer. You have to be the people pleaser. And then we wonder why people get bullied. And it's not just at school. I see it in business all the time. I see it in relationships all the time because they tend to forget they have a voice. They have choice. And this 6-year-old has choice to how he's going to treat you. But you also have choice how you're going to let him treat you,
Oh,
you
yeah, man.
know? And our willingness. I mean, I want to come back to the horsemanship because, horsemanship for me means so many different things. I'm also a conscious rider facilitator. I'm a leadership with horses facilitator. And I love how much horses show us, one, not to allow anyone to bully you. But the more you are going to be you and stop toning you down, you'll have the awareness of where you need to go. And I'm actually really excited to be seeing my horse soon in a couple of days, because it's amazing. Literally, horses without leadership would die, and they do also need to also have, the herd needs to have leaders. It does bring in the stallion who's going to be that, or the gelding who is now that alpha. They also know the mares, the female horses, require alpha mare who is going to make sure that what you called about earlier, benevolence, willing to do what will benefit the whole herd. It's not just about that one horse. It's about how it can contribute to the whole herd moving, going where it's going to be that they're not going to be eaten. It's going where there is food, where there is water. So, like you said, you knew this 1 hour, the willingness to be that leader, to know where you're going. But I love you because I know you're also going to include them, these kids. You're going to include them in that direction. So if someone has an idea that, hey, let's lean to the right, but it still gets us there, you're going to take the path that gets you there, but it may not be linear. So, that's the big difference when you were talking earlier, is like leadership does not mean a straight line.
Oh boy. And I think that really, thank you for saying that when you were talking about like this, I would say ecosystem even of, well, horses, but all of nature, I would say. I was really looking at like the migration patterns and the geese, and how with Access Consciousness, we talk about teams in the sense of gaggle, which is a number of geese. And actually, there is one goose that traces the direction because she's better at it, and there is one that goes for night flights, and there is one that it flies forward in the low temperature. And I mean, there is this interconnection and this mutual acknowledgement of, hey, I'm better at flying at night, but you're way better in flying long distances, so you're going to fly the long distances. And so there is this like really this synergy where you acknowledge each one's talent and capacity, and rather than having to prove anything, there is this like this willingness to go and play. And also I don't know, I love with kids, I feel that I am a kid with a driving license and a credit card. Most of the time I'm like, oh my god, I got playmates, we're gonna do stuff. And I also need to kind of keep the course, the trajectory in a way, because otherwise it would be like howling monkeys in our room. It would be like a chaos all the time and doing stuff, and it would be very, I mean, it's a bit of a lab. I don't call it class, it's more like laboratory. We do a lot of things, but then they go out and speak English, so whatever float the boat. And but it's amazing how each and every individual can contribute. And if you ask them really, and again, I cannot stress enough, what do you know? I would say it's my favorite question, because like it really allows your so many elements to come into play. So there is all your experience, but also there is a sense of something that it might come through association or many other things that you know about anything. We can say leadership, or we can say, I don't know, genocide. We can call whatever word, but there is something that you know about it. And it's very interesting because energetically we're way more aware than we give ourselves credit for, because we kind of bastardize it into academical knowledge. Like it needs to go through logic and linearity and structures, you know, a lot of
Yeah.
time. And it's okay, we can use that as well. They're amazing. Like some things are extremely interesting and cool. But first, what would it take to start from you to start with, you know?
Well, I know, I have a program that we created with the tools of Access Consciousness. It's called Leaders of Tomorrow. And what I love is that it's many different things. Like it has one for the business. If I'm going into a business, it has one for school. If I'm going to go to a school, there's also one that mixes together. And the youngest age is 8, over 100. And we mix people of all ages, all backgrounds. And one of the things is it's all about what do you know? And what I love is that it's always the CEOs, the executives, the people in business who are taking the most notes because it's such a creative space. And how much the youth is creative. They're willing to look at things not just from what we think is the only option, but they're willing to have this spherical awareness. They're still willing to be creative, and the good thing, they're willing to do things that others would say, I may lose money if I go down this direction, because to them they don't care about that yet, right? They're still raw. They're still willing to be more from that innate knowing. Hey, what about this idea? It doesn't mean every idea they have is going to happen, but they're willing to actually have a voice and share their idea. And, this whole theme of us, right? Leadership has nothing to do with the title. It has everything to do with you being willing to be that leader, no matter your age, no matter your work environment. Like, I know you, Chiara, you're so much more than, the journalist, the mom, and this. Like, you're always looking to empower, whether you're working with the government, whether you're working with the school system, whether it's your own kids, whether it's some random people you meet on the street or on your trail path along the way. It's always about empowering them to know, hey, something else is possible. So that is that leadership that we also have to remember.
Thank you. I don't know, I'm so grateful. I just see how, man, I am so grateful that this program is taking place. Like, oh my God, if you when you were talking, I was really looking at how, like, our visionary and childhood have so much in common, and they're so, I would say, waterproof to the culture of impossibilities that we might grow kind of accustomed to in a way.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, so let's create, a ladder that goes up to the moon, and the rest of the people are like, well, we might not be able to do that, but they're like, yeah, then let's create a very long ladder that goes up to the moon, and with a spaceship or something. And it's very like, what visionary standing figure, like what visionary leader can we allow ourselves to be if we gave up on, like, people pleasing, like you were saying before, right? Like trying to be normal and be like everybody else. Also, I love it when in access classes, I love it when like Gary or Dane say, like, if you're trying to look normal, you're failing big time. Sorry, like, you stand out. It's just, you're doing a very bad job at trying to be normal. It is such a relief when you acknowledge that. You're like, oh my God, I'm trying so hardly with my whole heart to be like normal, and I'm failing it. So let's just do something I'm good at. I might spend my time better at baking or raking the garden because, let's be honest, this is not my color. Normal. And we're that in so many, in so many regards. And in some things, it might be, I don't know, like reassuring, and it might be an area that you're not very interested in revolutionizing to kind of be normal. It might be something that it's okay for you in some regards. You're like, yeah, I want to be normal with food cooking. That's fine. I want to be normal. Okay. But in how many areas are you, a visionary and a leader? And what will it take to give yourself credit for that and explore that and experiment? That's one other thing that I love kids for. They're willing to play, and playing is also like, mistake is completely taken into consideration, and it's not stigmatized like, oh God, I failed, so it means I'm a failure. No, you fail, everyone does. You stack your construction cubes, and then at one point they fall. Okay, you might need to be a bigger basic. That's fine. No worries.
But see, that's the beauty. The biggest lie is failure, because you always gain something, awareness. Like you said, maybe your foundation needed to be more solid. Maybe it needed to be, wider, bigger, whatever. But you gain information, but you also gain energy and awareness. And that's the beauty. Leadership, true leadership, there's never any failure. It always helps to make the situation, the environment so much greater. And sometimes you're like, okay, we're not going down this road at all. Like, let's go a different road, So again, it's learning something different. I could be talking to you forever here, because we can always have conversations, but I'm so grateful that we did jump on and for this podcast. And what would it be like if each of us, whether you're a parent or not, like, all of us are a parent of something. Most of us are parents of a garden or house, or a dog or children or whatever else, but like really empowering everything and not limiting ourselves or limiting anyone else based on their age, their background, or anything else, but really being that leader. So thank you, Chiara. So grateful for you.
Me too, Lale. Thank you so much. I am so starry eyes from this conversation. I'm like, oh, so many mischievous possibility waiting to happen. Let's go.
Well, there you go. Creativity at work. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you everyone for watching, and spread the seeds. Let's let this travel. What would it take for all of us to know, guys, something else is possible? And what do we each know? And what if we don't have to be the one that gets bullied or anything else, but we get to be part of actually creating a different world where there are possibilities, and we invite everyone's creative idea in it too. So until next time, bye-bye. Thank you for being here for this episode of What Do You Know podcast. We're so grateful you're here. If you have not yet subscribed, you can subscribe below. And will you contribute to assisting us in spreading this out to all others who may be looking for it? And comments below. Let us know. What did you think of this episode? What contribution has it been for you? And also, what topics would you like to hear about? We look forward to hearing from you today and in the future.